Hi everyone and welcome back to SwitchUp. First things first, GG to the winner of our free game from last week. Your name is in the top pinned comment. If you'd like to be in with the chance of winning a free game each and every week, you don't really have to do a lot. You just leave normal comments down below, and we also give away a game each month to the subscriber most active and engaged on the channel. But we don't care about all of that. We are here to gather together, look at our backlogs, feel slightly ashamed, and then have a look at some games that we can potentially add to them. And you are not alone in that, I'm right there with you. If you do decide to buy any games, you might as well save 10% more if you're in the EU or US regions by using code SwitchUp over at switchup.gg. And I have found another gem of a game to play at the end of this video in our new episode, well, our new segment I should say, called I Found a Game on Sale and Played It so that you don't have to. With all of that waffle out the way, what is on sale? Well, let's find out. First up then, and a game that hasn't been on sale, well, maybe ever, certainly not at this price. We've got RPG Maker MV. Is MV 15 or is it like 55? I can't even remember. But we did a review of this one on the channel. At the moment it's down to its lowest ever. It's 70% off, taking it down to £13.49 or your regional equivalent. Now I wouldn't say it's exactly accurate to call this a game because it's more of a game creation tool. But there are some incredible creations on there. Someone's actually made and released and even advertised one of their creations, and you can go and download it completely free. Obviously it's a system whereby the cream of the crop tends to rise to the top, and play other people's games you don't even need to pay anything. There's actually an RPG Maker player that you can download completely free from the eShop. However, the creation tools are so well done on the Switch. Even using a controller, you'd think that would be a nightmare. But I was able to create my own game and didn't spend that long, probably about 5 to 10 hours, and I was able to create quite a simplistic RPG with some of the greatest characters ever. So if you're at all interested in making your own games, now obviously this doesn't involve coding, not on the Switch version at least, it can be a really nice introduction to see, even on a small scale, some of the intricacies that are involved in that. Now this is 4.3 gigs and it can be had physically as well if you'd rather go that route. That takes us on to this week's sponsor, and it's Circus Electrique, which we did a whole video about a couple of days ago. And if you like Darkest Dungeon, you will absolutely love this. This is this week's sponsor. So the game I don't think is on sale at the moment, but it's certainly worth picking up or adding to your wish list. Now, in a very unusual twist, you have to rebuild your circus to its former glory through 6 massive districts in London. You can recruit different performers, and you actually have to put on a show every couple of, well, not couple of days, every day you put on a show. And there's a real strategy element to pairing up the different acts. Now those same acts can level up through this, and then you take them out into combat instances. There are actually 15 different archetypes. So you'll have things like Strongman, Fire Breather, and they have synergies between each other. There's a really clever momentum system in the combat, and that same momentum carries over into those performances. It might sound confusing, but I do strongly recommend checking out our dedicated video of this one, because we break down exactly how that works. As I say, if you're a fan of Darkest Dungeon, definitely one to consider or add to your wish list. The steampunk London is absolutely amazing. It's pretty gritty, man. It's certainly not one for kids, and it comes from Zen Studios, who are famous for obviously creating some of the best pinball games we've seen, but they've gone down a different route and I think it's worked out nicely. If you're looking for something slightly different, then consider clicking that link in the description or the top pinned comment and checking this one out. A thanks to Saber Interactive for sponsoring this episode. Next up then, and my pick of the week, and one that you probably wondered why we hadn't mentioned it before on the channel, and the answer is we hadn't played it, or I certainly hadn't played it. I'd heard so much about it, it was one that I kind of wanted to invest time in, but yeah, you know what it's like. But it was down 40% this week to £7.19. It's Undertale from developer 8-4, I think that's how you say it. And I'd heard of it, I'd heard how amazing it was, but I wanted to try it for myself. Now it's about a 8 to 10 hour long game, maybe even longer if you want to find and do everything. But it's one of those real head trips. Like, they really have just let loose in terms of creativity, and it pays off brilliantly. To name a few things that are in the game, you can date a skeleton, you can dance with a robot, and you can cook with a fish woman. Oh my goodness. Yeah, as you can see from the trailer, a really unusual one, and I do like that. I definitely like those Stranger Things type experiences, and I don't mean that in the TV sense of the word. There's a physical of this one available, but it's very expensive. You're looking at like 60 quid here in the UK. I don't know if that's because it's rarer, but if you're interested in this one, only 220 megabytes to download, and that sale goes on until September the 20th. Another one from NIS that's on sale is Ease 9 Monstrum Nox. The perfect time to pick it up at 50% off. And another one that suffered in the review score because the performance issues, like it was shocking at launch, certainly around the town area, but it has seen a number of patches that have had varying success. Honestly, around the town it's still not great and there are still some stutters and things, but the actual gameplay is brilliant. And while it starts out a bit slower than the previous one, Ease 8 for example is just incredibly well paced. Ease 9, it does get its legs, it certainly does pick up, and it's actually very rewarding and well worth sticking with. You're looking at an RPG that's around 30 to 60 hours, and it's an action RPG, so it won't be slow turn-based battles. This is very fast paced, and there's almost like superhero abilities that the main characters have. You can jump from rooftop to rooftop, glide around, and it's a slightly different take. It's not your classic RPG tale really. Obviously there's an element of good overcoming evil, like that's standard, but the layout and the structure was actually surprisingly refreshing. Now this one, only 3.2 gigabytes, $26.99, which is pricey, but it's a very premium RPG and a lot of content there, and that sale goes on until September the 18th. Then we've got a real blast from the past. It's a game called Fee, or Fae, depending on how you say it, but it was one of the earliest reviews on the channel, and it's one that Glen did, and I watched his review of it, and my goodness, I honestly thought we hadn't come on very far, but I think he wouldn't mind me saying this is not our finest hour in terms of reviews, because we didn't have a clue what we were doing. You know, we were just a couple of mates getting into it. So I'll pop a link to his review, you can check it out if you want, but the content of it is absolutely fine. Like what he says in the review is spot on, and you know, it's how we would do it to today. But in terms of the way we edited and things like that, it's and the microphone, like it's certainly a trip down memory lane, let's put it that way. Now this one's about 6 to 10 hours, it's not that long, and it's actually published by EA but developed by Zoink, who have made a couple of games since. But it's quite a melodic, slow-paced and relaxing adventure game. You can befriend and then manipulate the creatures in the world, and you can do that to the plants as well. You'll be guided around by birds, bears, and you'll help those plants to grow berries that you'll then use to overcome what's known as the Silent One. Yeah, nice game, very, very rarely on sale, especially like this, and that one's on sale until September the 18th at just 1.1 gigs. Next up, we've got Disaster Report 4 Summer Memories. This one is 67% off until September the 18th, and it was another of Glen's reviews on the channel, and he had a couple of issues with it. Firstly, it was ridiculously expensive, which is obviously fixed now that it's 67% off, and it had a really interesting premise. Unfortunately, it was also a bit of a mess in terms of performance. Now, performance isn't perfect, but they have worked on it since launch, and I'd say at the price they're currently asking, it's a bit of a hidden gem in that sense, and worthy of considering. Now the goal of the game is essentially to escape the destroyed city. You have to find the safe paths through collapsed buildings, and you're dealing with panicked and fleeing people. There are over 60 different characters in it, and you're trying to work together to escape. Now I have literally pulled that straight from Glen's review, and also Wikipedia, because I personally haven't played it, so this is very much his suggestion, but he speaks highly of the game, and at this ridiculous price, I haven't seen it on sale. I can't remember if I've ever seen it on sale actually. So if you're slightly intrigued, maybe go and check out his full review of it, and if it tickles your fancy, then I would certainly suggest snapping it up, because I can't see them doing a sale like this again in a long time. They're not like some publishers who do it like every other day. Next up is one that I reviewed on the channel. It's Plants vs Zombies Battle for Neighborville, and possibly one of the best multiplayer online games on Switch. If you're familiar with the Plants vs Zombies world, well, this takes all of the plants and zombies in several different classes and then pits you on two teams fighting across several different checkpoints. There are a number of different game modes, and it's just brilliant. It has excellent gyroscopic controls. It has the 8 versus 8 turf takedown mode. There's touch screen interface for handheld. It's just really well put together. It also looks decent on Switch, although there are some blurrier moments, but generally it's quite impressive and it runs decent. There is a single player component to this as well, so you don't just have to be playing with other people. Now, what I'm not sure of, I can't be 100% positive, I don't think you need to be online all the time for this one. I think you can do those single player elements without being online, but someone's going to have to confirm that for me in the comments, because I always have internet connection, so I'm not sure. But those online matches, yeah, up to 16 players, they're great fun, and there is a physical of this that's usually much cheaper as well. Check out Amazon. I think here in the UK it's like 15 quid, but if you're downloading it, then it's 6.4 gigs. That takes us on to Sheltered. This is usually really cheap when it's on sale. I think at the moment it's £1.99, which matches the cheapest it's ever been. That's 80% off, and it's from Team 17 and developed by Unicube. What is it? Well, you create your own family, or a family. I wouldn't suggest creating your own. That's what I did, and well, just like this war of mine, that's probably not a good idea. But you create your family in this nuclear bunker, very Fallout Shelter-esque, but a little more focused. And then you send them out on jobs to gather loot and things. People come knock on your door of the bunker, and it kind of has that, I don't know, that like claustrophobic management element to it. There are other hazards to worry about. It's got a bit of an eeriness, and I personally really enjoyed it. It's another where we've got a full review of it. It certainly matches my taste in games. But if you don't like something that's a bit slower paced, then it might not be for you. But it really clicked with me. Now, there is a sequel to this one in the works as well. I'm not sure whether that's coming to Switch, but for a couple of quid, like you could get what? A battered cod for that. It's definitely worth it, and that's on sale until September the 28th. Then we've got the hidden gem of the week, or at least one of them. I think there's one other hidden gem in this list, and it's Super Daryl Deluxe. What an amazing game this is. You might take, one or two looks at this and go, absolutely not, that looks terrible. But it's incredible. It's like an adventure slash, it's one of those where I can't even describe it because it's so unusual. Now, I would suggest checking out the full review of it, but it actually combines some Metroidvania and some RPG elements. It calls itself an RPG-vania, which is upsetting, but it has like brawler-style combat. The whole thing plays out like one of your most unusual dreams, but it somehow manages to work. It's 5.7 gigabytes and around about 20 to 30 hours long. Really impressive for just £4.49. That's 75% off until September the 15th. Another one that hasn't been on sale, certainly not this cheaply, it's the Serpent Rogue. It's £9.59, the cheapest it's ever been until September the 28th. And it was one we reviewed on the channel, and it scored quite well. It got about 85%. Another in what seems to be like a growing hybrid genre. We seem to have like these adventure RPGs with Metroidvania elements and all sorts squeezed together. So this is, again, a bit of a hybrid. You can do some crafting in here, but the weird mechanic is that there's an evolution mechanic in here where you can shapeshift into different creatures, and you have to brew potions that will actually transform your body. That then gives you unique abilities, and you're trying to create the perfect balance between human and creature. Yeah, honestly, wow. They think of everything. So yeah, do check out our full review of this one if you're interested. I'll pop a link to it somewhere, probably in the description. It's just 1.1 gigs to download. Which takes us on to the hidden gem of the week then, and it's a game called Farm Tycoon. Now, I was really wanted to cover this one on the channel in a review form, but it was one of those times, again, as I always say, where we just get squeezed and we can't do everything. You want to be able to give every game that you're going to review the attention that it deserves, and we didn't have enough time. So Farm Tycoon is, as the title suggests, a tycoon game based around a farm, but this is one of the hands-on ones. This is where you're placing everything, you're designing what crops you're going to cultivate, what buildings you're going to place and where, and it has this lovely rendering style, which is called a 2XD rendering engine, and it's really impressive. Like, to my eye, it just looks and works so well on Switch. The game has a full campaign, but there's also a number of different scenarios as well, and a free mode where you can just build your own farm and chill out. And it is one that I would put into a chill games list. There's animal breeding in here as well, planting, as I say, many different crops. The weather will constantly change, and it's underrated, probably underappreciated, honestly, because the eShop is so full of rubbish. I would highly recommend it. It's 1.3 gigabytes to download, And yeah, well worth. Now, this one is only on sale in the US regions at the moment, but it tends to flip back and forward. So if it's on sale at the moment, as it is for 50% off in the US, it's likely to switch over when that sale ends on the 3rd. So then we quickly recap the games that are still on sale from the last episode in case you missed it, and then we look at the game that I bought so that you don't have to. First up, we've got Shadows of Adam. That's a really enjoyable RPG with very unusual story elements to it. It's 50% off until September the 14th. Teslagrad is 65% off. Rive, which is a bit of an action game, 90% off at the moment until the 22nd of September. And there was the game that I bought, but you don't want to go anywhere near it with a barge pole. The game that I bought this week then is called Easy Red 2. It looked absolute trash. It was about £7 or $8 and was created or published by Corvo Studio. And this is where things get a bit interesting. I'm a massive Battlefield fan. Like, I've played Battlefield, well, I've played it since the very beginning, and Battlefield 2 was my absolute favourite. And although Easy Red 2, it's janky a little bit, it's over ambitious, do you know what? I'm actually enjoying it. It has 1 to 20 player online. You can go into tanks, you can control anti-aircraft guns, you can pick up any weapon on the battlefield. I even made a few NPCs surrender when there was no way they could win. And look, the AI is not amazing, the view distance isn't great. Yes, I'm sure you can tell it looks a bit janky, but actually I can't slate this game because I'm really impressed what the small team have done. There are full campaign missions you can do where you'll be either dropped in via paradrop or the plane will land and you'll be able to get out. There's full squad command systems so you can tell your squad where to go. You can jump in and out of any of the soldiers on the battlefield. So when you die, you can go into another soldier. And that's very cool as well. When you die, it gives you like the date of birth and things like that. For what it is and for the price it's asking, I actually don't mind it. I've got to be honest. I won't tell you to avoid it. I think if they carry on like this, I mean, the recent Battlefield games have been a joke. So yeah, fair play. A military simulator. I was fully expecting it to be ultimately trash, but it's okay. It's playable and I actually had a little bit of fun. So there you go. The game that I played so that you wouldn't have to, when it goes on sale, you might want to. Having a proper online as well is, although again, it's janky, having 20 players actually playing against each other, I quite enjoyed myself. So yeah, I won't trash a game just because it makes a funny section. Maybe check it out. And that is it for this week. Thanks to all of you that enjoy the content and do subscribe to the channel. Save yourself 10% on any of these games using code SwitchUp over at switchup.gg. For all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch Up. Cheers everyone. See ya!